whichever one of us came up with the idea, let's go confront the piece of garbage. I'd been on a 3-day bender of coke and not slept in 72 hours, fell asleep for 2 hours, and then started right back up again. So I don't know.
Yeah, the drugs, you've lost all control of your emotions.
Yeah.
It's like you can't control yourself at this point. Like whatever emotion's in charge, like that's what we're doing.
So within 15 minutes of me finally breaking my silence, we're driving in my friend's van to this guy's house.
This is incredible.
Yeah. His front door was open. The storm door was closed. And there he was sitting there watching TV. Not a care in the world. To me, it looked like the devil sitting in his lair. And I ran back to my friend's van. I said, he's there. And we had brought 2 knives with us. And as we walked up the driveway, I can feel that panic attack like hitting me of being back at that house for the first time in 30 years.
PTSD.
Yeah. And it's just like I used to freeze when he would touch me. And I feel like my joints, like my fingers are like locking up on me. And,
you're a little kid again.
Yeah. And I'm back under his spell.
Yeah.
And before like I could completely freeze and with a panic attack, I marched up to his front door, ripped it open, broke the hinges. And here it is, 9:30 at night. A child rape victim of yours has just ripped open your front door, 9:30 at night. And you look over your shoulder casually at me and put up your hand and say, hey, how are you? And to me, that was the worst thing he could have said. Like, drop to your knees, start praying, and say, I apologize for what happened to you. I always thought you might come back. I'm so sorry. I don't know how I allowed myself to do that. I'm sick, whatever. But we're trying to rationalize an irrational mind.
Right.
We're trying to, predators, they don't have a rational mind. And yet we try to give sense to what they did.
Yeah, like that's why they are the way they are.
Yeah. And instead he just says, hey, how are you? And I go, hey, how am I, motherfucker? Let me show you how the fuck I am. And I raced across his living room floor and a violent, ugly, bloody fight ensued. And it was only a couple minutes long. At one point, he slugged me squarely across this, and we're talking about a 6'3", 265-pound guy. Yes, he was retired at this point, but he had been a hulking, big giant of a man, and he was still a big giant of a man. And he squarely punches me, and as I'm falling back, I grab his shirt with my hand to keep myself from falling. And I scream, you motherfucker, and I bring the knife down, and I put it straight through my hand, and I sever all the ligaments and tendons in it. The fight continues on. At one point, he slips in the blood and falls down, and he's up against the wall. And I kneel down in front of him. I got eye-to-eye level with him. And I go, it's not so fun raping little boys now, is it, Dennis? And I slit his throat. And people, when I get to that point in the story, people always say, oh, did that release all your problems? Did all your pain evaporate? And, and I like to say you don't heal from trauma by adding a mountain more of trauma. You don't heal from abuse by now adding the trauma of murder on top of it. So the answer is an absolute no. All I did by killing him was stop a predator from ever hurting another kid. It didn't in any way heal me, though. I'm not addressing my pain. I'm just adding more pain to my pain. That's not how you heal.
And you probably didn't know that about him till later. Like you didn't know that what he did to other people.
Yeah. Well, I know. We'll get to that. But
yeah.
I knew.
Saying, like in that moment where you did this, you didn't have that knowledge to help you deal with, you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't really know the extent of how truly evil this guy was yet. Or am I messing that up?
Yeah, no, I did. I did have an inkling. I had an older brother, 6 years older than me, and a next door neighbor who was 6 years older than me, and he and my brother were best friends, joined at the hip. And when I say next door neighbor, he lived 50 feet across from us on the street. Mm-hmm. And we were all joined together, always at each other's houses. He had the basketball court in his driveway, so I was always over there playing basketball as a young kid. We had the big backyard with the horseshoe pits and, parties, and he would always be over at our house. And he and my older brother were in the Scouts ahead of me, 6 years ahead of me in the Scouts. At 23, my next door neighbor put a shotgun in his mouth and blew his head off. And as part of my grooming, this guy would tell me, things about my brother and Jeff, like that he used to wrestle them. So let's wrestle. And then he would wrestle me with a hard on. 9 years old, he's inviting me into his pickup truck to have a beer with him, and invite me into his pickup truck to show me porno. Hey, I got some porno pics. And he just takes out a wad of Polaroids, the old Polaroid cameras, instant photos.
Yeah. And
they're all close-ups of penises. And I'm like,
this is like what so many of them do, though. Like, this is part of it.
It's unbelievable that back in, I grew up in the 70s as a young kid. And it's unbelievable without the internet
they still did,
that they found they all used the same MO.
Right. No, yeah, they do.
It's just like.
And he was, everyone trusted him in the community. Your family he's a Boy Scout. Like, and I think.
And he's the lieutenant in the sheriff's department.
Another good example. Like, and maybe we've mentioned this, it's worth saying again, but like these pedophiles, it's not a troll underneath the bridge, like you said before we were recording. Like, these are the uncles, the basketball coach, the priest, the Boy Scout leader. These are the police officer. These are they're so good at what they do and manipulating people that we have to be more aware of it. And I'm not sure how else to prevent the problem, but I'm trying. I think that's one thing we can do is talk about it more and try to
awareness.
That's
not the homeless person who's going to grab your kid and rape them.
It's going to be someone they know most of the time.
Absolutely. They have to. They're methodical. They put time and energy and effort into this.
Yeah.
Like the state police told me, Dennis Pegg, who was my abuser, he was a professional hunter of children. That was their words.